You're watching the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast with Matt and Rich. Welcome back to episode 21 of the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast. We're now legally able to drink, but we will not be drinking on this podcast today. Maybe in future podcasts. To start off, we have quite a little bit of news. Not quite a bit. It'll be a little bit of a lighter episode, but some things did happen. Some tournaments are being played. Some jerseys are still backwards. But that it is what it is, you know? So I'm super excited. I know, Matt, you have some personal stuff that you want to not talk about, but that you're doing tomorrow. Are you interested in disclosing that to people?
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's going up tomorrow anyway, so if somebody really wants to murder me in Disneyland, I'm staying at the Hampton. I actually don't know what hotel I'm staying at. So tomorrow I'm going over to California, going to Disneyland for the next few days. I won't be back until Wednesday night, so that's why we're recording live. It's Saturday night. I had to throw that joke in there somewhere. So I got all of the ridiculous amounts of trading cards. I got my trading card backpack ready to go. I spent the last 4 hours just editing decks and doing stupid stuff. So I'm excited. I'm hyped. And Richard is not happy with me because he had to take off and make time tonight. So thank you very much, buddy. And what you got going on?
Well, luckily for me, it wasn't that big of a deal. The reason why it was a little bit of an inconvenience, but I got everything done. So it luckily I wasn't too worried. But yesterday, the day before. Okay, so this would be Friday. Actually, I can't say today, yesterday, the day before, because this podcast is going up Sunday. Friday, we had finally had enough and tore up all the carpet in our bedroom. So we were renting out. I'm sure if you've been watching the podcast long enough, my space behind me is not where I started. That's because originally we were downstairs. I'm in a 2-story home. I own the home with my wife and then my coworker and his wife. And we had 2 roommates previous, and they were staying up here. But since they had left, we moved into here. And one of the roommates had 2 cats that they never took care of. And we got a UV light, and we looked all around the room. And the carpet was absolutely disgusting. And the reason why the UV light was sparked into our mindset was because when monsoon season came around, it reeked like cat pee. It was awful. We moved in. Everything was fine. We had actually, when they had left, we the Stanley steamer or whatever, company, we came in to just steam clean the rooms just to have a fresh start. And it smelled fine for 3 weeks. And then monsoon season comes around and it starts reeking really bad in our room. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And we start smelling it in the carpet. And the biggest problem is my wife is allergic to cats. So she's dying. She's literally dying. Every single day she wakes up at multiple times at night just to breathe, essentially. And I'm like, there's some weird tomfoolery going on here. What is going on? And so we decided that we had enough, and we just ripped the carpets up, and it was disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. If you know anything about cat urine or cat excrement or whatever it was, essentially what had happened was you have carpet, and then you have a sub-layer, and then you have the subfloor, because we're on the 2nd floor. Essentially, it had gone through the carpet, through the sublayer, into the subfloor, and was between the sublayer and the subfloor. And there's essentially what happens is there's crystals that form, and anytime moisture builds up in the air or you spill something on it, it just blows that smell out, and it's disgusting. And my wife had a quote I'm gonna say. In the 10 years that she's known me, coming up on 10 years, actually, matter of fact, we are, 7 days away of today. So 6 days when this podcast goes up of hitting the 10-year mark. She said in the 10 years that I have known you, I have never heard you gag before. And when I ripped those carpets up, I was gagging. It was nasty. So for the time being, we just ripped up all the carpets. We treated the wood with vinegar and baking soda mixture that we looked up online. It's all good now, but holy crap, did it suck. We moved all of our furniture out, ripped up all the carpet, laminated the floor so it looked decent for the time being. Eventually, we're going to, when we actually refinance the house, we'll rip up all the carpet and put down some like tile or something, or engineered wood. But for the time being, laminate, it was like a couple $100, and it keeps my wife from dying at night. So it was a flippin' mess, but we got it done. So it is what it is.
I mean, I guess that's where I have some sort of advantage over you of just not having carpet, because the first or second night we moved into this house, I ripped the carpet out of my bedroom because it was a child's bedroom and the carpets were disgusting. And then eventually in the office I did, and that's why I had to move out of the office for a while, because I had to start filling it up and putting like a little rug down and everything, and try to do everything I can to fix the sound. And now that it's lived in, it's fine. But yeah, no, that's the only benefit is if a dog poops or pees, we can just scrub it up and it's good. If it goes 2 layers deep and it just stays there.
Yep. And it wasn't like we didn't try to fix that smell between the sub layer and the subfloor. Like, we carpet cleaned it immensely, and none of our efforts were fruitionable. I don't know what the word. I'm trying to use big words, and I'm not good with big words. None of our.
We are the garbage spitting chicklets. We are not an educated bunch of folks.
But I will say, if you enjoyed my story, you should give this podcast a like, a follow, and even a subscription on all of your podcasting listening needs. I really would appreciate it. It does help us out. It helps boost the algorithm. But without that begging, I think it's time that we go into Coyotes talk here on this podcast.
Wait, we're doing a hockey pod? I thought we were just talking about our day.
It's a life podcast. So let me tell you about taxation. No.
Oh, let's do it anyway.
No. No politics.
Politics.
I guess let's
hop
right into the big subject here today, which is we had a big RFA re-sign here in the desert. We didn't have this in the previous episode. I believe you covered this on your channel, but we haven't covered it here on this podcast yet. Lawson Crouse gets a 5-year contract for $4.3 million, I believe it was.
I think it was like 4.3, 4.2. It's over 4, but it's under 5.
Big boy contract for Lawson Crouse. For a year that was his contract year, and he had a really good year previously. But what do you want to do? You want to hear my opinions on this contract, or do you want to go first?
I mean, well, you saw my coverage. Do you have anything of mine you want to critique, or do you want to just be like, listen here, bud?
I'm cautiously optimistic, shall we say. I'm cautiously optimistic. On one hand, this is a team that doesn't have a lot of money, or isn't spending a lot of money, I should say. And it's a guy who wants to be here. It's a guy who is willing to go through the rebuild, who is an all right player. He's not like, you're not overpaying a nobody, right? It's a guy that a lot of fans like. He works hard. Is he going to hit 20 goals again next season? I don't know. Not too sure. But I will say, it is a breath of fresh air to see somebody want to stick here and stick here for a long time. And I think that is worth it, in my opinion. I think that it is an overpay for what he is now. Is it an overpay for what he could be in the future? No. If he turns out being a 25-goal guy, which was his pace this year, obviously he was injured. I think he had a hand injury in the previous season, but he was on pace for 25 goals. If he's a big physical body who lays out, let's say, 220, 230 hits a season and puts up 25 goals, okay, I think that's a worthwhile contract. And can skate like the wind, too. Remember, he is a fast skater. Like, it's not just a Zach Cassian, a Milan Lucic type. This is a guy who can play. He can skate as well. And I think the contract could be worth it. I think I said, I guess do quote me, but I think I said on the podcast I would want just under $4 million. I think if you hit the over $4 million mark, I think it's too much. And we're over the $4 million mark, and I'm going to stand true to my word. As of right now, I do think that the contract is too much. As for when you look at the projections and what you're paying for, I think the contract is not nearly as bad. So you are taking up some of those free agent years, which are valuable, by signing a 5-year contract. Obviously, every contract price-wise goes up when you're talking about free agent years. UFA years, I should say. I guess RFA, UFA, free agency is all the same thing. Those unrestricted free agent years, you're going to pay more for. I do think that it could work out, and what I'm thinking is what we're seeing from him as a leader, I think it's worth keeping him around for because of that. I know I don't know if you're on the same bandwagon here, but if we're looking at future captains, I do think Lawson Crouse could be a future captain.
I apologize. I mean, zero disrespect to Lawson. Please watch this podcast. But I mean, zero disrespect to you, your family, anyone who's helped you get to this point. I don't see him as being the captain. I can see him being as an emotional heart and soul type, but without the C. I wouldn't mind an A. Put an A on his sweater, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't see the C on his jersey, and I mean that in no disrespect in any context, because I absolutely love this guy. I'm gonna have to disagree with you a little bit. I have no idea if my opinion has changed or if it's just me thinking about it more. But I'm gonna go ahead and stand by what I said when we were first talking about. I think you said 3 or 4 episodes ago that you were hearing it was around $4 million. It sounds high, and that's because it is a little high. But I don't necessarily think it's an overpay for what he brings right now, considering it in 2021 that goal scoring luck was just not there, but the effort was always there. And the couple years leading up to that, it was always building up. And like I pointed out in my video, he's yet to, I know it's a young career, but he's yet to allow that to be a 2-year decline. It's a 1-year stop off, and he comes back up to being a 20-goal scorer, career high in goals, career high in assists. And yes, just for the sake of consistency, there is a slight, I'll go ahead and call it orange flag about a career year in a contract year, getting a multi-year extension, that power forward type. I definitely think the 5th year of the contract could be rough. It doesn't mean he's going to be a terrible player, but I do think that when you hit that 4th, 5th year, there might be a couple of concerns. He shouldn't start breaking down yet, but with the power forwards, we've seen it just 1 year difference, and it's almost a completely different player. Milan Lucic is one of my favorite examples, so I'm a little weary on that 5th year. But given the effort, given the on-ice leadership ability he has shown, that kind of heart and soul type, given the fact he's finally hit that 20-goal threshold, I think the cap hit's fine. I just really wish it was a year or 2 less. I know it's good to lock up a guy. He's only going to be 30 at the end of it. He's not going to be like 38, 39, but it's just something about that, the back of my mind, something saying, okay, well, the Lucic contract, I said it last episode, if it was a year shorter, would it have been as bad? Name a contract, if there was a year or 2 less on it, even at its worst, it wouldn't have been as bad. We probably aren't still talking about this or that contract as an all-time worst. So that's my mindset on that. On the flip side, I like a lot of what he brings. He's a hard-working player. Fast, too. That's surprisingly fast for that kid's size. A lot of passion. He's a fan favorite. In my opinion, one of the few times where it's like a fan favorite 110% deserves it in my eyes. Like, it's not one of those, well, he's a likable guy or he had one good year. Like, no, he's been consistently there, consistently good. I like it. I like that he's sticking around. But I have those concerns that I want to place here. And then I would like to just forget about them because I'm going to enjoy the next 3 seasons. And at the very least, if it's bad the last year, 2.6 or 2.3 million over 2 years to buy out 1 year really doesn't sound like that big of a deal. Worst case scenario.
Yeah, and also you can 50% retain that contract and maybe move it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're talking about a guy who can still be physical and maybe the offense has fallen off by year 5 of that contract, you probably can still move a guy like that, even if it's for not much, if you retain on it.
Mm-hmm. And that's I love retainment slots, and I feel like GMBA always tries to keep one open.
I wonder. So I remember Audie was saying last episode we should be able to pay for cap space. What if the Coyotes just paid? You traded cap space for retainment slots.
The Coyotes would have like 6 retainment slots and an extra. Well, they would be 20 million below like the actual cap, but they would have all these retainment slots.
Yeah.
But it is good. It's good to keep the kid around. It's just, remember we were talking about primarily you want 3 years because, well, Gunner is going to be coming in the league hopefully in the next couple of years. Cooley in the next couple of years. I want to talk about him next because I hope you saw the same highlight I was watching earlier from that tournament. Yeah. So it's just a little bit of foresight, just a thing just keep in the back of your mind. That's all I'm saying. Again, nothing against Lawson, nothing against the Sheriff, just to people listening, just keep that small thought in the back of your head.
Taking on big contracts that are 3 to 4 years in length is a dangerous move as a GM right now. And I do want to pick your brain a little bit about this real quick about dangerous moves by a general manager, which is, we casted out our line here of a little bit of a word of warning to Bill Armstrong with how he treated Connor Garland, with not even really calling him about contract talks, not even giving him a, hey, we're not interested. This contract was signed at pretty much the last possible minute before arbitration, which if you don't know what arbitration is, essentially you sit down with somebody like a judge in the middle, and the player goes, this is where my value is, this is how valuable I am to the team, and the team goes, this is how bad he is, this is how useful he is to the team. How useless he is to the team. Arbitration can be a very bad time for players. It's something that will put very bad taste in players' mouths, and it is not recommended to go to arbitration, especially for a guy who's trying to ask for $4 million, right? It's one thing if you're arbitrating for an AHL contract, you want $200,000 in the AHL or whatever. Like, that's one thing, but big contract like this, you don't want to go to arbitration. And Bill Armstrong took it to the possible second to get this contract done. And, I think he's playing with fire a little bit there by doing that. I don't think that was I'm happy the contract got done without having to go to arbitration, but if it did go to arbitration, that could have been real messy. And he's playing with fire, shall we say.
And I want to acknowledge this. I really, really, genuinely wish I could say I love the high risk, high reward. I wish I could say that. But it's just, the numbers came out. It was a 1-year filing. Coyotes were at 2.5, and it was just a solid 4. Or was it 4.5 for Lawson Crouse?
It was just a 4.
Obviously, so yeah, he's not worth that much, whatever. But the fact that 2.5 would have been, in my opinion, probably a steal. Again, $4 million sounds high because it probably is a little bit, but 2.5 would have been a steal for someone who's a 20-goal scorer because of how much the market's inflated, and that's just because of a lot of really bad contracts, guys that got bad contracts for 25 goals and then ended up falling off. So hey, I still want to make 6.25, whatever. So that was a dangerous game in and of itself, just with how far apart they were. Part of me really wished they would have done like maybe even a 2-year bridge at like 3.25. Just back of my head, it would have been probably a little bit better. But just to really put it into a little bit further context, the arbitrator Crouse's representatives and the Coyotes representatives were already in the same room getting ready to sit down. Like, it was the 11th hour, the last possible. And again, my biggest concern, I like how you mentioned it, you brought it up, going into this was you don't want a player to hear, this is why you ain't worth anything. Like, this is why we don't want to pay you, because you don't actually provide that much value. Because obviously it's a negotiating tactic, but it's still, no one's gonna feel happy about that. Imagine if your wife, you're sitting in a room with like a third party, and your wife's talking about all the things you do terribly and how bad you are at this. Are you gonna feel great? Are you gonna be ready to start building things back? No. So it's just, that's how dangerous this is. And normally I'm a high risk, high reward kind of guy. No, I think this was just a little bit dumb, because it's, at the very least, the arbitration filing, I feel like, should have been a little bit higher, or they should have been like, okay, if we're this far apart, let's do like try a bridge deal. I have no idea if that's actually what was said. I have no idea. Don't quote me, but just, I feel like there should have been other talks that would have gotten out at some point of healthy negotiations, rather than 11th hour or $2 million apart.
What I'd just be really curious of what took so long to get this done. Was it the 5th year? Was it, hitting the 4.3 mark? Like, what was it? Because, man, I don't know. Like, if that's what your number was, why did it take so long? It's not like we're talking about superstar numbers where where our differences are $5 million apart. Like, you're talking about a difference of $2 million that they were at, first of all, and also year-wise, this wasn't even remotely close to what they were looking at in the first place, because they're both looking at 1 years. Both sides were looking at 1 year. So it was an interesting thing. I mean, he was able to get it done, and I guess that's a good thing, but it's one of those things where if it becomes a trend, how many people want to come to the Coyotes? Let's say they are successful. Let's huff on the copium here real quick. Even if they are playing in the new arena that they built 3 years down the line, how many people are going to become to this team because they're like, oh, the GM's a hard ass, right? Like, you got to be careful. You got to be really careful with the way you look. Now, with that being said, with one contract down, what are we looking at for numbers-wise for RFA number 2? Barrett Hayton is still yet to be signed, did not have arbitration rights because he is not old enough or hasn't played enough years in the league. He still is not signed. Are we going to see Barrett Hayton get signed anytime soon? And what are the numbers that you're thinking in your head?
1.25 for 1 year. At this point, that's pulled directly from my anus, by the way. Just like most statistics and most numbers, it's
just like all hockey beat writers.
It's like all hockey beat writers. Yeah, exactly. Except for this way, I don't have to waste the time, typing away. I just gotta have Richard edit it, and I'm fine. But no, it's at this point, with how long it's taking and the context of he has no real leverage and the amount of injuries and genuine underperformance. And again, we've talked about how we like the kid. We've talked about how he does a lot of, especially the two-way stuff, right? But unfortunately, same thing with Dylan Strome. It doesn't really matter that you're good. If you're picked at a certain pedigree, they demand great for you to really get that money, get that contract, get that priority. And especially with Cooley and I know Gunner's a winger, but Barrett Hayton gets knocked around a little bit too. But with Cooley, Gunner, Geeky all coming through the system, and McBain really looking like he wants to steal a top 6 spot, it is entirely possible the Coyotes could have like little interest, like relative little interest. So it might just be a 1 year, all right, give us 7 more goals, 12 more points or whatever, show us you're a solid top 6er, and then we'll give you probably a 3 to 5 year deal. But with how long it's taking, with how there's really no reports, it does not feel or seem, be very specific with how I'm saying it, feel or seem like there's really all that much urgency.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also entirely possible there could be a trade in the works in some context of, hey, we don't really care about this player. Unfortunately, let's talk about Connor Garland for just 10 seconds. I love the guy, was my favorite player on the team. They had no interest. They weren't calling him. There was that feeling of they didn't really care, but at least there was reports of trades there. So I'm like, is there potentially, like, they're just waiting for some sort of trade opportunity? Hey, let's get a second-round pick. Let's see if we can just get out from under him because we have other guys coming in. Is it a, hey, we'll wait until training camp starting and give him that 1 year? That's kind of my vibe right now, but I'm just going to go ahead and say 1 year, 1.25, because he's a first-rounder. He'll get a little over $1 million.
Okay. I'm with you there. I'm saying no more than 1.5, 2 million. I mean, obviously, if we hit the 2 million mark, it better be for like 7 years. You know, like, even so, I feel like you're pretty much there. Like 1.5 is probably the max, and I'm just once again, why isn't it done? if that's the case, what is Hayden's camp? You know, what is the number that they're trying to go for? Because I don't feel like he has a lot of leverage, right? Like, at least Crouse, you could say, oh, well, I put up a season where I was top 3 in hits, and then I have another season where I put up 20 goals, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, okay, that's pretty fair argument. And with Hayden, it's like, hey, I scored a really cool goal.
It was a nice goal, but if we had, like, even 7 more of those, he's sitting around like 12 or 15 goals. That makes you look better. That gives you more leverage. Whereas he finished with, it was sub 10 last year, right? Or was it about 10? It was,
I have no clue.
Here, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna while you're talking.
Okay, I'm gonna go with probably. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm just curious. Like, I'd love to look up, like, are there other RFAs that haven't signed that didn't have arbitration rights? Because if so, who? And there's 10? He had
10 goals last year.
Okay.
So it's like, even though, again, we've talked about it, good player, the little things right, he's building up that scoring, so it's going up year over year. It's not going up by enough to where they're probably comfortable offering a 3 to 5 year contract, but he's probably, it seems like, again, keyword, seems like, he's probably also not that comfortable with, like, oh, I just want a 1 year deal, or it's like, he probably wants to get a pretty sizable deal, but because there's not enough numbers going up, what's the leverage? And he really doesn't have any.
It's interesting, but I'm jumping topics here. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the Coyotes are going to be the worst team in the NHL next year. This upcoming season,
Quebec City is going to be the worst team in the NHL this year.
No, but like when you look at the roster that they have, I don't know if the Coyotes are going to be the worst team in the NHL. Like the way that they were playing at the end of the season. Now, granted, we've seen it many a years where the team plays really well at the end of the season and then they don't play so well when there's actual pressure. I.e., the first time we went on a 20-game losing streak with Rick Tockett's first season. I remember the end of that season. I remember the end of that season, though. I mean, Antti Ranta had a case for being a Vezina caliber goalie at the end of that season. They played themselves out of the Rasmus Dahlin race real quick. But I don't know if they're going to be number one for last. Like, when I'm looking around and I'm looking at Chicago and I'm looking at all these other teams, man, are they that much better than the Coyotes? I don't think so. I think that there's a lot of competition on this team, and next year they're going to be. I've said this before. I don't think they're going to beat you by scoring, but there's going to be a lot of close games, and if they can find just a little bit of goal scoring from somebody other than Clayton Keller or Nick Schmaltz, I think they're going to be kind of tough to play against, and the barn is going to be like super jam-packed and exciting. Like, I think this team's going to be real tough. I don't think they're playoff material by any case, but I don't think they're going to be above top 10 in wins, but they'll be in contention for maybe not being top 5 in last in the league, which is a crazy thought to think.
Wow, so you're pretty much taking my opinion from last year, which I
I
don't
am.
regret, by the way, because again, when it comes, look at the Vegas effect. I was leaning heavily on that, and younger players. Again, you never really know when they're going to break through. Most of the time, it's 3 years, somewhere around there, but sometimes come into the league and you go off. So it's just last year I looked at it like they're going to be better than people thought. They didn't come out looking like that. But then towards the end of the season, they're, even with a lot of the injuries, a ridiculous amount of injuries, you still
Yeah.
saw a lot of upside. And especially, they don't really seem to have destroyed team chemistry. They don't seem to have done the Detroit thing where they just tried to sign half a roster full of veterans to keep the kids out, but they signed enough to where none of the rookies are going to have to be forced to take these spots, which means if they play well, they're just going to outplay them and get the spot anyway. So they might be. They had 25 wins this year. I'd say they probably hit either 30 wins this year, or they absolutely bottom out and they still get second overall because they're not allowed to have nice things. And Chicago gets Connor Bedard.
I will actually scream at the top of my lungs if that happens. If
Can we do a
Chicago
podcast for it
is
if it
after
happens?
all the BS that that franchise went through, and they get rewarded Connor Bedard, I'm actually going to lose my mind. This is a team that held up a scandalous sexual assault case and got no punishment, but the Coyotes told some players to reach above their heads and lost a first and a second, or two firsts and a second. I can't even remember. Was it two firsts and a second, or was it a first and a second?
I think it was just a first and a second. We only lost two firsts technically because of the Taylor Hall trade, so that's why it felt like we lost so many.
Okay. Yeah, we lost a first and a second because we told some players to put their hands above their heads. But
pretty much, it's so what?
Oh wait, I have a tweet. I have a tweet that I remembered.
Go ahead.
It's gonna be a little edgy here, podcast listeners. There's somebody who tweeted this out, and it just reminded me. If the Coyotes would have sexually abused the kids instead of working them out, they wouldn't have lost any picks.
Oh my god. The counter arguments were like, oh well, it wasn't hockey related, so it doesn't deserve a draft pick. A fine's enough. I said it at the time. I don't think didn't have the podcast at that time, but I'll say it again. Quite frankly, piss off, because it's you need to punish the organization, and a fine for one of their top 15 earners. I think it's actually technically top 10, but I want to be careful, so I'm not just throwing out anything random. But they're one of the more valuable franchises, and one Chicago Blackhawks fan, whenever Coyotes fans have retweeted the Bedard jersey and said, no, he's coming to Arizona, and showed like a mock-up Bedard Arizona jersey. He's like, oh,
yeah,
you can't let Chicago fans have something nice. I'm like, okay, for 2 seconds, for just 2 seconds, I'll show a little bit of empathy for the Chicago fans that are just fans of the team. They're also disgusted by what happened, but they're forced to have to deal with all this. That sucks, genuinely. But you have 3 cups to cry into.
Yep.
I have 0 cups to cry into.
And you also insult us, Coyotes
Rattlers
fans.
ring and a little Mercury ring, and 90% of the people watching this don't value these 2 championships. So that's what I got. I got 2 little rings to go cry into. That's it. So it's just respectfully go away. And if Chicago does win the draft lottery, it just quite frankly, there is no justice and there is no God or hockey gods, if you will.
Yeah, I agree. That's utterly ridiculous. Could you imagine what that team could have looked like not trading all those assets for what's his name? Jones? It's not Caleb Jones. Seth Jones? Like, oh
that was
my
a bad
goodness.
trade and a bad contract. I don't care if he wasn't a bad player last year. It's also you got to look at the amount they're making, and it's like it's just not that good. Then again, I also called Erik Karlsson was never going to be worth the contract he signed, and people looked at me cross-eyed for the first 2 years, and I was like, look, he's never going to be worth it again. And especially like Drew Doughty, was it Erik Karlsson? The joke of he has to send Doughty a fruit basket because that contract that essentially locked him up for all that money. It's the money values are getting stupid. But anyway, look, let's talk about something that's not stupid. Let's talk about the boy that's going to be lifting a Stanley Cup over his head in Tempe. Mark my words. I really hope they bring back the Flying Fox and they do it in those ugly jerseys because, man, that would be even funnier.
What about a white Flying Fox jersey?
I was actually going to mention that at some point when talking
Yeah.
about reverse retros. I think it would look clean. I think that would look clean. But Logan Cooley, I think you know exactly what play I'm going to talk about. So he had that injury in the camp, comes back, looking great, and he goes for the Michigan. It goes off the bar and out, but
just
the
came
fact
off the
that,
stick.
as per usual, he's out there, ridiculous speed, ridiculous hands, showing off. Yes, there's a little bit of arrogance there. Doesn't really matter. It's entertaining arrogance, and I'll take it. When he goes up against a big NHL defenseman, he'll humble himself real quick. So for now, do all the weird stuff you want, but it's so exciting, and especially with Gunnar. And I know he got injured before the championship, but his team winning the was it WHL championship? I forget which league they're in.
He won the WHL, and then his team participated in the Memorial Cup, and I don't think they won. I think a different team won the Memorial Cup.
So we're having highlights on just regular NHL Twitter accounts and hockey channels and their Coyotes' own prospects. Gunnar, Cooley. It's really exciting. I know you tend to watch more hockey than I do, primarily because I don't know how to access these tournaments. Mm-hmm. Have you got to watch more of this? And also, what's your takeaways from Cooley's play?
I am going to really bum you out here. Mm-hmm. I had floors that I had to rip up, so I haven't been able to watch any of the tournament. But I have watching the highlights. I'm actually getting live updates from people who are watching the tournaments. And a lot of people are saying that they really like his speed and how much tenacity he has. Obviously, I'm taking their word for it, but that's good to hear. Obviously, we're seeing the highlights of the plays that he's making. He had a goal in the first one, which was really funny because there was probably about 10 people in that audience at that first game, and 2 of them were Coyotes fans.
We travel.
We travel. Actually, I think those guys live there. I'm pretty sure I've seen them before in Alberta, but
logistics.
But yeah, we travel, okay. But that was
go everywhere across the country to the Kraft Mac and Cheese preseason game.
Yeah, seriously, or the other preseason one. What is it that we just had? It's like Oklahoma or something that we're playing a preseason game at.
Are we playing in Kansas City and somewhere else? I think we're playing in Kansas City as well. It doesn't matter. We're going everywhere, and no, I won't be because I would rather spend my money on small children's trading cards than traveling to Kansas City.
But back to the Cooley talk. He had a really good goal the first game where he just drove the net, powered it through, got it in. Good play. Good play all around. Wasn't flashy, but did the right thing. And then next game, we're talking about the highlight that you were talking about, where he attempted the Michigan, but it, I believe, just rolled off the end of his stick, and when he went to go bat it backwards, towards the goal, towards the net, it rolled a little bit and did make it in, but it was wide open. He could have got it. It just didn't. The cards weren't right. But he also got an assist, I believe, that game as well, where it was a nice little pass back, but it was to a different player, and they just walked in and just walked around the goalie and scored. It was funny. Wasn't really much of a he created that goal, but it was a good play to get him open. So, he participated at least in the goal. It wasn't just a trapezoid pass and the guy walked in through the blue line and did all the work or anything like that.
Well, he's still facilitating, and it's good. I think the first game he had a goal and an assist too. So it's like he's been producing, and I haven't seen yet, but this will happen eventually. I have not seen yet any saltiness about this kid's going to be a Coyote, but the amount of seeing him terrorize the timeline, it's going to be very fun to watch. Also, he's committed to Minnesota, right? I know it's one of those, yeah. Minnesota. Do they play ASU this year? Because that would.
They do. Hilarious. I believe it's like Thanksgiving time. He'll be in town.
Should we try to get tickets and do something?
Yeah, I believe they're already sold out. Good luck.
We'll go in the second-hand market. F it.
Oh, God.
Bro, did you see there are already tickets on the market, like second-hand tickets? For the game against Pittsburgh, there are 2 that are $850 and another 2 further back. These are not more premium. They're a few rows back that are like $1,000. And I'm like, oh, my God.
Yep. Remember, how are they going to be able to make the profits to be able to afford their bills? Remember this, kiddies. I wonder how. Now, obviously, that's a secondhand market. They're not selling. They're not selling those tickets for that price, but I think they'll do just fine. I don't think they're going to be losing revenue going into this building. I think they will be at the same, or if even a little better.
Yeah, I still think I stand by what I said with Audi. Doesn't mean they will, but I think at ASU they could potentially turn their first year profit in Arizona, because when you take into account just the level of excitement, on top of that the tickets are already selling like crazy, and the lower operational costs, it wouldn't be by much. I still stand by max $5 million. I'm not expecting a huge profit, but I'm saying when they're in Tempe, I think they might finally turn their first profit at ASU, which would be hilarious.
That would be hilarious.
Genuinely gut busting if they finally turn a profit. And it's like, oh, so they should have been in the East Valley the entire time, and it's so apparent that it took them playing in a 300 seat building in Tempe to finally turn a profit.
Yep. That's the power of lower bowl tickets, man. That's where your money's at. People just fail to acknowledge it. I watched the Coyotes game. There was 10 people in the stands. Ha ha ha. Well, all of them are in the upper bowl. Right? They're moving to an arena that's only a lower bowl. And they're giving you a quarter of the tickets that were available previously.
That price shoots up, and operational costs go down.
It's basic maths. Basic maths.
Look, it hurts their head. A lot of these people also just keep yelling. Also, Milwaukee, for some reason, has been thrown into a location they should relocate to. Milwaukee is best known for a basketball team that finally, won a They won one earlier, obviously, but won a championship in the modern day against the Phoenix Suns, and also having a shooting outside of their building. I don't think Milwaukee's the best place you're going to want to have a brand new hockey team. Also, what's there to do in Milwaukee except for shoot people in front of an arena, I guess. So you can bleep that out if you want, but I think it's funny. Anyway, so it's just the kind of people that they see the Coyotes and they just say move them, and it's right now Quebec, Houston, and Milwaukee for some reason. It's funny. Milwaukee doesn't even exist in my eyes, and it's just I don't get why that's now thrown in there as an option, but
yeah.
That's the level of intelligence we're dealing with. We're dealing with mental 5-year-olds. So it's like, at this point, if we keep talking about with the maths going on at the arena, I think we're just bullying kids at this point. I don't know. Probably. I feel like we're just, probably going to get booted off the platform because we shouldn't be harassing little 5-year-old, 35-year-old adults.
Little 5-year-olds from Canada that write articles about our team that don't know what they're talking about.
But remember, the Coyotes don't generate any money, like in terms of ad revenue, clicks, or whatever, but we're constantly talking about them. Like, we are constantly bringing them up, no matter what. Like, with the mock-ups, that was at least a month, if not 2 to 3 month old news, that, oh, hey, we need some clicks for the website, let's go ahead and throw the mock-ups up.
Yeah, this month's running a little dry on our ad revenue. Let's throw up those Coyotes arenas photos and get some insults in here, baby. Some hate watchers.
But it has been quiet. I put on Twitter today, it has been quiet. So I'm thinking hockey Twitter finally accepted Arizona's a better hockey market than Quebec. So we can finally all move on. We can go play in the Tempe Arena. We can watch them have another freak out every single hockey game. So by game 37, they're going to act like it's still the first preseason game.
I mean, what would you rather have? Would you rather play in Glendale in a half full barn? Like, this is the other thing that people talk about. They're like, playing in a college arena, this is an insult to the game. This is a travesty. This is an embarrassment to the league. Okay, what would you rather have? A half full barn in Glendale, or a loud, rowdy college crowd that's playing in a college arena with NHL hockey?
I'll take the loud barn, because even just at the prospect, I hope I mentioned it when we were talking about the prospect game, but in case I didn't, I'll go ahead and just state it here. There are these kids, they only stuck around for the first period, but these kids over on the glass to the left of where my wife and I were, and they were like banging, kicking on the glass every time Logan Cooley's on the ice. They're screaming for Logan. They were screaming for Donor as well, and whenever before the game started, Bill Armstrong walks over and we see him on the opposite side of the rink, and me and Elena are chanting Bill, 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 and we got a few other people to join in too. So it's like that was like less than I have subscribers. I think it was like 250 people that led it, or 200 people.
Yeah,
that was already that rowdy for a prospect game.
Yep.
In Scottsdale, just a couple like teenagers, right? And it's like
and you're gonna have a whole section of them, a whole 942 of them.
No, Richard. Remember, there's no student
probably
section.
not.
They're not selling any tickets on one side of it. Remember.
I think somebody reported on actually the 942 section is just called that. It's a little bit smaller. I think it's like 700, but whatever. Mm-hmm. The 942 section, which is the college student section, and I'm so excited. I am a little curious, seeing how rowdy people will be, because the problem is with Coyotes fans is I think we've grown into a lull here because of not having inspirational hockey for so long. I've gone to quite a bit of the Coyotes games at Gila River, and you can tell, like, when it's a half-sold crowd, like, it's quiet. It's dead quiet. Pin drop silent. And when Leafs come into town, or some big original six team comes into town, and it's a filled barn, it's a sellout or close to a sellout, it's loud. Even when the Coyotes fans are battling against the away fans, like, it gets loud. And you're gonna have that exclusivity where all the Coyotes fans are gonna be the ones with the season tickets. Good luck, away team, of getting your away fans in. I'm sure there'll be some, obviously.
Yeah, there's going to be, but it's not going to be half of the barn. Like, there's no way. Like, there's a bunch of people, I can't wait to watch the away teams, come and invade. And I'm like, look, obviously, like, Arizona fans, we have no problem turning a profit. Look at Cardinals fans. Whenever any good team comes into town, one game pays for your entire season ticket plan whenever you do that. But there's going to be game. But I would be shocked if there was a single game where even 40% were away fans, just because, again, the limited seating as well as the amount of tickets that have already been sold. And I don't know if the tickets have been available anywhere else. I know they've been sending out to, like, other season tickets. Even I got an email for reserving seats, and I literally am poor. Like, I spent all my money on jerseys and cardboard. That's what I do. I'm gonna build a cardboard house whenever my house collapsed. But so
House of Cards.
God, I hate you so much. I hate anyway. But I would be shocked. Maybe a Toronto, because it's a really really big team. But I would be genuinely shocked if it was even a couple of times more than 40%.
I don't think you're going to see, like, the Minnesotas, right? Like, Minnesota travels pretty well because a lot of people from Minnesota, they GTFO when it gets cold, right? Like all the other cold states. Oh, I love it here. And then the second the tundra blows in, they're down in Arizona living for flipping 6 months against the poolside drinking margaritas. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, real hardy northerns, fleeing to my beautiful sunshiny state in the wintertime to watch your hockey game against my bad hockey team.
I don't like snowbirds. We talked about this extensively. It's just like there's literally memes like within Arizona, not just Arizona Coyotes fans, like just Arizona Circle and locals, where the first car crash involving an RV, it's like, oh, the snowbirds are in town.
Yep. And it's true. Like, we get, like, at least 100,000 people added to our population every winter, at least.
It's massive.
And remember, that's like almost 100,000 cars that show up on our roadways. It gets awful in the wintertime. It just gridlocks so much easier because you're just flooding a bunch of cars.
At least we're not LA. I mean,
True.
we're not that far off at this point with how many Californians keep moving here, but I'm just saying, at least for now, for the next 10 years, we're not LA.
Yeah.
I mean, for the local sports teams making money, they're going to love it when we turn into literal Eastern LA. They're gonna love that, but us, the locals, are gonna hate it.
It will be great in 10 years' time when Phoenix becomes beachfront property, though. Just think of it that way.
Listen, I still stand by. We all just, around the entire border of California, you drill in, take some dynamite, put it in there, have everyone with a giant stick, and once it blow, we just push
push it out. Push it out into the sea.
Nothing but beachfront property for them.
You see that you push them out, and then Hawaii's like paddling towards Asia. They're like, oh God, they're behind us. Like
Hawaii just gets further. We don't want to be any closer to that. I think that could work. We could have a Arizona beach, and then we can build more in all that area where we have nothing, and we can do a Fallout New Vegas land, and I can be happy because there's especially when you go like further past Buckeye, it's like Buckeye, Verado area, and then you keep going, and that's like kind of the last big civilization you get before you're heading to California.
Yeah.
And it's like there's so much. There's that nuclear power plant, obviously, just for safety reasons. You're gonna want it a certain distance away, but. Mm-hmm. There's so much perfect real estate for a New Vegas land where I'm like, how has Bethesda not done this? Or I would be an annual pass holder. All right, I don't know how much that would cost, or an annual cap holder. And I know we're talking about Fallout for a second, but please, dear God,
low key, that would be sick. Imagine they made like a Fallout universe, like, and you just paid with everything in caps, like actual bottle caps. That would be so sick. Actually,
I am not a huge fan. I like Star Wars. I grew up with it. I like the characters, but like the movies themselves kind of bored me. So like my favorite is Episode 3. But whenever I went to Disneyland and you're in Frontierland, they're like, oh, that'll be however many credits. I was like, oh my God, you gotta pay your credits. So like that, but with Fallout, I would have no problem taking like $200 or $300 and exchanging them for caps and just paying with bottle caps. Dude, this is a business. Me and you need to get together and just pitch this to Bethesda. We'll take care of everything. We'll get the real estate. We'll do all of it.
I think Bethesda's got their heads so far up their keisters that they don't care. As we've seen time and time again, they're like, hey, we're going to push a Star game or a space game instead of giving the fans what they want. When we're gonna remaster Skyrim for the 12th time.
And I'll keep buying Skyrim, but I would like Elder Scrolls 6 because if I remember when the game came out, I'm like, oh, we'll get the next one in 5 years, and I was like, oh, that feels so far away. I think it's already been 11. It's been double the time, and like I love Skyrim, but I want the next one. And Fallout is one of my favorite franchises of all time, and I'm like, dude. Oh, here's a live service game. Here's Fallout 76, which if it had a single-player only mode where you can just play by yourself or with friends, it would have probably been a great game. But nope, they had to make it a live service, always online.
And it was
$60
awful too.
For a terrible. The server keeps
the bobby pins. The bobby pins were £1 each. That was great. Did you hear
the story when they sent a box of bobby pins to Todd Howard?
Somebody gave a box of bobby pins to Todd Howard. I saw that one. Yep.
I noticed this derailed very quickly, but seriously, call me. I will help you with it. I will run it. You can pay me in bottle caps and trading cards. Just give me a suite in the Lucky 38. Doesn't matter. Give me a suite somewhere. I'll live on premise, and I'll have my dog. And me and Pee-Pee will walk the streets of New Vegas. And if guys are getting rowdy, I'll shake them up. I'll get one of the Securitrons.
I will rename myself to Caesar, and I will burn the heretics.
Bro, we could literally do like a themed event every like so often where we have people dressed up like the Legion come in and raid.
Oh God! All right. I gotta show this off here just for those who haven't clicked away yet. That's above my PC.
Nice. Oh my God, I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, I got an NCR flag above my PC.
I mean, not based, you side with NCR, but based because it's New Vegas.
I actually side with the Caesar's Legion my first playthrough, but this is the only flag that I could find. So I still felt like it was a cool pickup.
It is really cool. I've beaten the game probably like 5 or 6 times by now. I've only ever done independent runs. Because I'll go to a certain point with Mr. House, and I'm like, oh, well, you're kind of annoying. Kill him off. the Legion. I'm like, well, I wouldn't want to be a degenerate now, would I? And then the NCR. That's like siding with bureaucracy. I would sooner cut my toe off to do that, but I have to do an NCR run eventually to get the achievement. But just the fact I've been playing this game for so long, I've only ever done like independent runs.
Yep. All right. Well, I don't know. Do we have any more hockey talk to talk about? We've divulged into video game degenerate talks, but you know what? I'm not even going to judge, because if you didn't think that we weren't gamers, then you weren't looking at my posters. I'm going to try to get this one for the audio listeners. It's their welcome to posters like you'd get from a postcard. And that one's Aperture Laboratories from Portal. Okay. That one is the Halo from Halo. That one is BioShock, the underwater city. And
Rapture?
Yeah, Rapture. That's what I meant. That one is a mountain range, and like just below it is Appa. So that's from Avatar: The Last Airbender. That one is Sora from Kingdom Hearts. And then, as you can see, my 3 posters over here. Oh God, this is so hard to do in the camera. Is Cowboy Bebop. So,
I have never paid attention to those, but now that you pointed out the top left one is Sora. Mm-hmm. Like I recognize that area for what was it? It's from the first Kingdom Hearts. Mm-hmm. It's funny. I've barely even played the Kingdom Hearts games, but if you also want to know how much of a nerd I am, I literally have a little Gomamon from Digimon just sitting right here on my desk, and a freaking piggy bank. I got it at Walmart. It was like a Minecraft thing. I'm like, I'll get a piggy bank.
Alrighty. I don't know.
We're losers, but I guess we're married somehow.
Yeah, somehow we ended up married. I guess we'll talk about guns too if we want. No, I'm just
do a
kidding.
Whole podcast about just guns.
That one will get the channel destroyed. I'll let you know a little secret. They're all legal, so don't be mad. Matter of fact, let's hide these ones over here. Those ones, they look scary, but those are actually airsoft.
We gotta go like paintballing or something one day. That would be fun. Desert Moon Hockey podcast on the paintball field.
I love
South Park. My teenager hates me.
I love airsoft, as you can see with the 3 guns in the back. I would be down anytime. So,
all right, just let me know. Anyway, this is not a hockey podcast anymore. This has become the official Galaxy News radio station. I don't even know if I can say that.
This is your host, 3 Dog.
Ow!
All right,
bro. Oh, we can actually that can work for the podcast if we like appropriate some of that, because like it works with the howl for Coyotes and also bringing you the news no matter how bad it hurts, because we're Coyotes fans, we're miserable. So it could be like it's howling news radio, bringing you the truth no matter how painful it constantly is.
I will be 4 Dog.
We'll be the pack. We gotta be a little bit separate from 996 to how. We gotta be like ever so slightly different so he doesn't get mad at us. So it's like we are 92.3 the pack. This is degenerate anyway.
All right, we are filling out time is what this is called, people. So we're about to hit the hour mark. This was supposed to be a 30-minute episode, but we can find anything and talk about anything.
Never will hit it. We should just say it should be a 3-hour podcast, and then we'll hit the 30-minute mark.
True. We just say we're going for 4 hours. We'll be done in like 30 minutes. It's perfect.
It's fine.
Anyways, if you enjoyed our random ramblings here at the end, please give us a like, a follow, a subscription on whatever platform you're listening to us on. It's another successful week. We are officially able to drink. Episode 21 is all done, and we will see you later.